So, Zohran Mamdani has become the first Muslim mayor of New York, the first socialist mayor of New York, and the first hardcore gooner mayor of New York. And these three things together have created one of the most insane crash outs I've seen from conservatives, liberals, Zionists, who are all going absolutely apeshit that Zohran has become the new mayor of New York. Now, some of this is, of course, like funny. It's funny how hysterical a lot of them are being, and they're being sincere as well. Like, they're not just saying loads of random shit to like scare people. I'm sure some are doing that, but they genuinely live in some sort of fantasy world where, because someone who happened to be raised Muslim has become the mayor of New York, it's going to create some sort of Sharia law. So a lot of like the darker side of what I'm going to be showing you today is just how insanely normalized just the most disgusting racism has become, that every single liberal and conservative who doesn't like Mamdani can just write the most racist, insane shit about him just because he was raised Muslim, like casually flinging around that he's a terrorist jihadist. And often the people saying this stuff are politicians, journalists. And although I don't obviously agree with a lot of the UK laws on free speech, it's just insane some of these people can say this stuff and face zero repercussions. So while they absolutely pollute the discourse with racist filth, there's no incentive for them not to do it as well. So yeah, that is the depressing part, but we're going to cover all of this today. I'm going to give my thoughts. I'm going to give a little bit, not even of criticism, just at the end, talk about some of the leftist reaction to him winning, because yes, I'm happy that anyone who talks like Mamdani on most issues wins a massive election, like becoming mayor of such a major Western city. I will also caution people that elected politicians, although they might start off great and they say everything you want before they're in positions of power, they can quickly compromise their values. And I feel like we have seen that a lot. We've seen that with people like AOC. I'm not saying she's the worst person ever, but it's pretty clear she has pivoted on certain issues because she wants to be president one day, right? And because of that, she has basically moved away from a lot of her more radical views. I wouldn't call many of her views radical, but that's what she appeared to be. And now the Democratic center like her a lot more, and would probably get on board with at least a Senate campaign in New York and maybe a campaign for the presidency one day. Mamdani has like maybe less fears about that because he can't actually run for president, but at the same time, we have seen him try and go back on some of his anti-Israel rhetoric, and I thought that was dumb because it was pretty clear at that point he was going to win, but you just have to hope. It was misguided but very cynical political calculations of, how do I wrap this thing up and get into power? Maybe by saying I'm going to have Zionists in my local government or whatever, right? I would say if you're going to like stick to your anti-Israeli principles, like this is the time to do it. But, you know, I'm going to talk about that at the end. But yeah, we're going to get into all of this today. But if you like the video after you've watched it, please leave a like. If you like my channel as well, please subscribe. If you want to follow me on social media, at the Kavernacle on Blue Sky and on Instagram. And if you want to support my work, check out my YouTube memberships and check me out on Patreon. So just to say some like nice things and positive things, I think it's like obviously a very good thing he has become the new mayor of New York. It's nice to actually see a politician who feels more in line with someone on the left in like European countries rather than someone on the left in like America, where even if they seem to be quite progressive, you're getting people like simping for that Graham Plattner, right? Just because he talks about certain things. It's nice to see someone who's not like that, who's not someone like who simps for the military and has a terrible like history in the military. It's a guy who seems super, super normal, has had a very like interesting career in politics, has done loads of good things in local New York politics, has said lots of things like I really like, and seems like someone who more like understands their like socialist politics better than some of the other progressives who've run for political positions in America. I'm happy that's happened, and I think it's just a good thing to show people around the world and show people in the Western, like English-speaking world, that just because we're facing like so much fascist shit electorally doesn't mean leftists can't still win. And you saw that because Mamdani was smeared and attacked by the most powerful people in America, from liberal Zionists to far-right conservatives, people with loads and loads of money, putting so much pressure on him, putting so much money into the Cuomo campaign, and doing literally everything possible to try and ensure this guy lost. And even if his career as mayor doesn't really change much or whatever, I think symbolically this is a good thing. And people talking about, like in the UK, like Zach Polansky, who is our like leftist leader of the Green Party, you know, could that be someone who does really well in the next election? Could that be a future prime minister? Completely different context, but you know, why not if Mamdani can win? The one thing I will say is I don't really expect him to actually change much. You know, I come from a city that had like an actual socialist mayor and now has like a centre-left mayor, and Ken Livingstone was a decent mayor and did something that really changed my childhood. Obviously got through the Oyster card policy. I don't think he started it, but he did get it through, and that means my entire like teenage years and childhood I had free bus travel around London. There was something called an Oyster card, so until you were 18 you got free bus travel, and in a city like London that had a great bus network, that was amazing. And that's actually like a really positive thing that he did. I've also grown up in a city that had a terrible mayor. Boris Johnson was our mayor as well, and I'd say like the best thing for a mayor is to not notice your city getting worse. I have very low expectations because Sadiq Khan isn't like a great mayor or anything, but just everyone who always runs against him is fucking terrible and will make your life worse. So I'm hoping what Zohran can achieve is stuff that people can actually notice that, yeah, you have made my life better. Thank you for doing that. And if that is his legacy and people can remember him, like Ken Livingstone or whatever, then that would be a good thing. I just wouldn't expect too much. Even with a lot of his campaign promises, I wouldn't expect like most of them to ever be implemented, but it's good someone is trying, I guess. So that is my take generally, like very positive on him winning. Do I actually expect anything really to change in New York? Like, highly doubt it. And sorry for maybe dampening the mood. And let's do that even further. Let's go into the unhinged conservative reaction. And let's remember, right, this guy's become mayor of New York, and everything I said about him probably being very limited in what he can do will probably be true. And it'll probably be true measured against other mayors of New York, other mayors of major cities. He's probably not going to be able to do that much. But the conservatives are freaking out like he's going to implement woke Sharia. And I made a whole video on this back when these attacks started about what they were calling like Islamo-Communism. I know this is a big slur used in Germany and places like that, and France. I think it comes from France originally. It's basically the belief that anyone who is a Muslim leftist is someone who wants like woke Sharia law, which is this ideology that seems incomprehensible. It's both taking the really conservative elements of Islam and Islamicism, let's say like making women cover up and stuff, while also being communist. And I spoke in my video previously about examples of people, of groups that were Muslim and communist. Probably the most notable amongst them was when Afghanistan was communist in the 1970s. And this is before the Soviet war in Afghanistan as well. And part of the reason Islamists got so much support was because the government in Afghanistan was progressive, but they were mostly Muslim as well. So that was like the main example of Muslim communists, which pretty much, I guess, Zohran follows in the tradition of. It's someone who's like a secular Muslim. Maybe he'd even call himself like a cultural Muslim if he was being honest, who also believes in socialism, but respects like religion, minority rights, all that other stuff. Also big on like LGBT rights. So that is the only thing you could compare him to if we're going to talk about like Muslim communists. This weird, insane ideology that all prescribing to him just like doesn't actually exist. But here you see, which I feel like is going to be an iconic thing that Zohran might get a copy of. Tomorrow's cover, Zohran Mamdani wins the mayoral election, and the red apple. On your marks, get set, Zoe. Socialist Mamdani wins the race for mayor. You know, I think that makes him look really cool, But yeah, absolutely unhinged. And then Michael Rappaport, if you guys don't know this is like some washed up Hollywood actor who has just become infamous for being so pro-Israeli. He posts this person who was reacting to Trump winning the election in 2016, but everyone has made fun of this person, but he's posting it saying it's him. So this meme about someone supposedly being like so hysterical because Donald Trump has won and isn't that the worst thing ever, now they are describing themselves as this person, which I think is really funny. Getting into more of the like stuff, like Ted Cruz posted this, an actual communist jihadist, a literal Karl Marx quoting America hating jihadist, is so fucking insane for someone this like powerful and famous to be tweeting that Mamdani is just a jihadist because he was raised Muslim. Like, that's how much if anyone thinks Islamophobia isn't actually real, this is a perfect case study of it. Like, he has never said anything violent. He has never said anything in line with jihadist groups or anything, but they're calling him a jihadist just because he's a Muslim. And you have loads of people tweeting stuff like about 9/11 and how you forgot about that because you've elected a Muslim. And I spoke about this in my last video about anti-Indian hatred. Mamdani faces the trifecta of being a socialist, of being a Muslim, and from being an Indian background. So it's like three of the most hated groups for American conservatives right now. So they show him eating rice with his hands again. I don't really want to go over this point again because I spoke about it a lot in the last video. But yeah, if you are a Westerner who seems outraged at the sight of another Westerner eating rice with their hands, literally the only difference between that and what you eat with your hands is just you've been told one is okay and one is not okay. Have you ever eaten sushi with your hands? And have you ever eaten maki with your hands when eating sushi? You probably have. Is that really different because there's like a little sliver of seaweed between that and the rice? It's just so fucking stupid Americans even have a problem with this. Loads of people just tweeting about against Islam. Matt Walsh just being a fascist as usual. A third world communist one in New York because New York is a third world city now. This is mass migration working exactly as intended. It isn't any more complicated than that. So just like, white replacement theory. And that's like a lot of the sentiment you've been seeing with, across the board. Just this like conservative cope, but apparently the only people who vote for people like Mamdani are like refugees and immigrants who came to the US like 5 or 6 years ago. And even if their definition of Americans doesn't include people like that, it totally ignores like everyone else who voted for him as well. And then this guy writing these things, like loads of it is a bad thing. Here's what's happening in coming years to New York. Huge money and businesses will leave New York. I don't think people will be sad about that. Cops will retire in record numbers. I don't think people will be sad about that. Welfare for illegals and trans surgeries. I think most people in New York wouldn't mind that. The cost of living up, crime up, taxes up, tourism down, landlords will flee. I'm sure the good people of New York will be so upset if the landlords end up fleeing. The property values will go down. Again, I'm sure people in New York will be very sad that property is going down. So more insane shit from someone who used to be a baseball player. Taxis will be replaced by camels. Women will be forced to cover themselves head to toe. The New York police will be replaced with religious police, and all hot dog stands will be replaced with goat meat stands. This is what you voted for. Like, it's really hard to tell sometimes if these people are serious or are just this insane. I mean, I probably don't expose myself in my personal life to too many people suffering from MAGA brainwashing and brain rot. But if you have been exposed to these types of people, I'd be really curious in the comments. Let me know. If you know any people who are hardcore MAGA, would they actually believe shit like this? But yeah, more people, get ready for Sharia courts, public prayer, burqas in every corner, churches burned to the ground, your dog getting kicked, no more bacon. Again, do people actually fucking believe this crap? Probably they do, but then here's one that they definitely do believe. New York has a jihadist, commie, a Jew hater, and a wannabe terrorist as mayor. 9/11 was forgotten. What a disgrace. What a shame. Again, I see these types of tweets from every single fucking conservative, from just the random accounts on Twitter to high profile politicians. And it's just totally acceptable to call Zohran Mamdani all these things, like just absolutely libelous slander. And there's just nothing he can do about it, because it's so overwhelming. Like, where would you even start? But now we have to talk about the pro-Israeli crash out a bit more. The reason this mayoral election became so followed around the world was, of course, it's New York, so lots of people have an interest in it, but also because of the propaganda around him, like being an anti-Semite and shit like that. And I think New York has the highest Jewish population outside Israel. Loads of people in New York who are Jewish support Israel, of course. And they've just been going insane about him becoming mayor. Now, lots of Jews, of course, did also vote for Mamdani, and that's probably because he actually isn't an anti-Semite. But DSA writing, Zohran will win because the world is tired of a Democratic Party that chooses genocide and billionaires over putting food on the table, keeping housing costs down. Some guy with a ribbon pin saying, Zohran will win because the world has decided that Germany should have won World War II, and that lying about Jews is easier than addressing core problems. There's no genocide, just a horrific war where a combatant party has systemically weaponized its own population to increase their deaths. That alone makes it difficult to be genocide, as it's contrary to the legal requirements for intent, and no one gets to change the law, as it means attacking the sole Jewish state. That's anti-Semitism. So again, just making everything about themselves, and it's pretty easy to see how believing in this ideology just absolutely melts your brain. Like, these people are the modern day Nazis. They actually believe all this shit. And that's the really scary thing about even seeing this stuff and seeing the people who hate Mamdani. They believe shit like this. And their brains have been absolutely rotted. And again, like with the Trump supporters, I don't need people to tell me that these people actually believe in this stuff, because I've dealt with so many people on YouTube, online, seen this argument a million times. These people fully believe in this victim narrative. Like 100%, they are totally brainwashed into this shit. And there's nothing that will ever wake them up from it. And even them thinking, Zohran Mamdani win an election means the world think Germany should have won World War II. But again, it's so insane, but they actually believe that. But don't worry, there's more. I'd like to speak to Jews all over the world who may be feeling scared because of Zohran Mamdani. We will outlast Zohran Mamdani in the same way we've outlasted all those who seek to harm the Jewish people. We will stay in Israel. We will stay in New York. We will double down on our Judaism. We will always love America. We will always love Israel. We are not afraid to say it. Like, how does this guy threaten you? Like, this guy who's like a bit geeky and just seems so like happy and positive, has never said a bad word about Jewish people, just has very, very valid criticisms of Israel. You think he's some sort of existential threat to your ethnic and religious identity. It's just so crazy. But don't worry, someone had the biggest crash out ever. So someone called Deborah Messing. If you're from the UK, you might not know who this is, but I primarily remember her from being some just annoying Hillary Clinton supporting shitlib on Twitter back in the day. She's an alleged actress as well, and she just had a full-on crash out. And people were often saying on Twitter yesterday as well that Mamdani and Nick Fuentes both being popular at the same time shows that like the left and right both have these extremist problems, and they're the same because they both don't like Israel, right? This person proves the horseshoe theory is real for liberals going full fascist. Not that you need me to tell you that again, because I've said that a million times on this channel. But Matt Binder just posted some screenshots. It's funny how Deborah Messing, one of Hillary Clinton's biggest supporters, is now just straight up promoting Donald Trump's endorsement of Andrew Cuomo because she's just that Islamophobic and anti-Mamdani. She's sharing Breitbart and Newsmax posts. So if you see on her like Instagram post, I think she posted 100 stories in 24 hours. So she was just sharing all this shit. But then, because she's gone full fascist, she's sharing Donald Trump posts like this. Any Jewish person that votes for Zohran Mamdani, a proven and self-professed Jew hater, is a stupid person. If communist candidate Mamdani wins the election for the mayor of New York, it's highly unlikely that I will be contributing federal funds other than the very minimum required to my beloved first home because of the fact that, as a communist, this one great city has zero chance of success or even survival. It can only get worse with a communist at the helm, and I don't want to send as president good money after bad. It's my obligation. And then she just posts this insane racist shit. In Judaism and Christianity, we are commanded to speak the truth. In Islam, they are commanded to lie if it means spreading Islam. Do not disregard the fundamental ideological difference. Now take a look at Mamdani, apply that basic rule, listen to his words, and watch his actions. He's revealing their goal, mass conversion. These two opposing civilizations cannot coexist. Like, she has literally gone full Hitler because she hates a secular socialist who was raised Muslim. Like, liberals going full Hitler is not surprising to anyone, but this crash out is absolutely historic and also just gives you an insight into the brainworms all these Israel supporters have. They love killing civilians so much, and they want to be able to do that with impunity and build this apartheid state even further. And they start out as like liberals in the domestic context, but then they radicalize themselves into full fascists. So not only do they believe fully fascist things about Israel itself, now they're actually fully fascist in the American context. How are you not a fascist if you're sharing shit like this about Islam and also sharing Donald Trump Truth Social post on your story? Again, one of the biggest liberal influencers out there. So just absolutely insane that this guy drives him so crazy. But it's not even because of his socialism. It's purely racism. It's purely because he was raised Muslim. They're going absolutely insane. The socialism is just a bit of a bonus to them to just say the most unhinged shit ever. But these people, the far right, conservatives and liberals, they all just hate Muslims so much. They would rather a right-wing corrupt sexual predator become the mayor rather than a guy who's like loved by so many in New York. It's absolutely insane. So, depressing, insane, but that is like the general American reaction. But I do want to talk about the American leftist reaction, and I think this is where they often get into problems, and it's because they, more often than I think other countries, form this cult of personality around politicians. So someone tweeting, who had like a hilarious tweet about Graham Plattner before, this will be the most important global win for the left maybe ever. New York City is the financial and cultural capital of the world. Yeah, that's like an absolutely insane post. The most important win for the left in history is Zohran Mamdani winning the mayor election of New York, having loads of endorsements from like right-wing Democratic figures, including the governor of New York as well. No, Zohran winning the mayor election is a good thing. Most important win for the left? Would it even rank in the top 1,000 things of like leftist history? Like I would even say Jeremy Corbyn becoming the leader of the Labour Party like 10 years ago, that was a bigger deal than Zohran Mamdani becoming leader of being the mayor of New York and stuff, for what it kind of meant. So yeah, there's so many different things I could say. So many like socialist like revolutions, you know, I think maybe the Cuban Revolution, the Vietnamese Revolution, the Chinese Revolution. Like there's loads of leftist revolutions that like not only more important in terms of what they did, but the lasting impacts of them are like absolutely huge on like world politics. And I don't think Zohran Mamdani will have the impact those people have, sadly. But I do also think this kind of encapsulates a lot of American thinking. And it's not surprising this person also was big on Graham Plattner. And you saw these American leftists just defend this guy no matter what, because they liked him for like his lip service to progressivism. Now, I think Graham Plattner isn't even progressive. I think he's actually probably quite right-wing, and I think he actually probably used to be a neo-Nazi as well. You can go watch my video on that. But the thing with Zohran Mamdani is he says all the right things, and I genuinely think he believes them as well. But then you have to think about what he's even working within. He is the mayor of New York within the Democratic Party of New York and America. He's been endorsed by the governor. He's even walked back a lot of anti-Israel stuff he said. He said he'd keep the police commissioner in charge, someone who is an insane Israel supporter, was celebrating the police brutalizing the college campuses last year and stuff. So he's already compromising. And what's going to happen is Zohran Mamdani is not going to be perfect, and he's going to do a lot of things that disappoint you. And he's going to do a lot of things that you're like, why the fuck did you do that? Like, you didn't have to do that. You're listening to bad people. It's the same thing with AOC, right? And it's important to not pin all your hopes on the guy or the person or the woman or whatever. You can't pin all your hopes on one person. You see these people as a vehicle for policies and left-wing politics. So Zohran Mamdani, for me personally, why I care is I think he's a very good symbolic victory, and I'm happy about it because he can inspire other people, he can show other people. AOC kind of did something similar when she won. But then with AOC is a great example. Like, obviously she's far better than most like politicians in America and stuff. That's not saying much. But then she does loads of stuff and you're like, what are you doing? Like, seriously, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? And then it's like, oh, you want to be president one day and you're willing to sacrifice certain things and do certain things to become president. And one day I can see you maybe serving your purpose. Like, if you became president of the United States, would you actually change much in terms of America's policies around the world? Like, is AOC going to significantly reduce the military and stuff like that? Probably not, right? And it's the same for a lot of US progressives. And if you attach all your political hopes onto the individual, you're either going to become one of two things: maybe disillusioned and maybe not wanting to care about politics anymore. But something I see more in the American context, get super, super defensive and attached to one singular figure, and you can't even entertain criticisms of them. And I feel like that generally, whenever I criticize American leftists, let's say like might criticize Hassan or people in BreadTube, people in my comments always go absolutely apeshit, and they don't even entertain my criticism because they're so attached to the personality. Let's say you're a massive fan of Hassan, right? You should probably, and you care about politics a lot, you should see him as like a vehicle for your politics. And he's a good like entry point for people to get into this kind of politics broadly, right? He's better, he has this mass appeal, loads of fans, loads of subscribers, loads of normal people know who he is. And that's a good thing. But if he does something really, really bad, right, that shouldn't really matter to us because we haven't attached all of our kind of hopes and dreams on this one person. But I feel like increasingly in America, people do this, and I don't think it's as common in other places. Like Jeremy Corbyn, I like and stuff. I think he seems like a nice guy. I'm also willing to now support someone like Zach Polanski, not because I think Zach Polanski is necessarily better politically than Corbyn, because I don't actually think he is. It's because I look at the political landscape, I look at the Green Party, I look at just him as an individual and how well he's doing right now. And as a vehicle for my politics, he's better, right? I don't like him more. I don't respect him or anything like that, but I think at the moment he's better. So I'm willing to shift my support. And if it became down to between two of them, I'd support him because I think he's a better vehicle. That's just what you have to remember. So Zohran Mamdani is a good vehicle at the moment. Doesn't mean he always will be. And you have to be willing to entertain both criticism and also someone outliving their usefulness. Bernie Sanders is a great example of this. Like someone who's been so disappointing over the last 2 years for their stance on Israel. Still better than most US politicians, but his version of left-wing politics is just not the future. And maybe Mamdani's is, and I hope he stays principled, and I hope he doesn't, and I hope all this bad shit that he did in the campaign, I hope that was just cynical politics, and he had bad advisors telling him to do this, right? But we will have to see. He seems like a nice guy. I like this campaign. He seems like pretty chill and stuff like that. But it doesn't matter now because he's a political representative for you, so he answers to you. It doesn't matter how chill and nice he is if he doesn't actually represent the political views he's promising right now. And if he changes, you have to be willing to criticize him and not just go along with him forever just because you liked him once back in the day. The same with AOC, but I feel like people sometimes can't move past it, especially if these people, be it Hassan, AOC, and now Mamdani, if they're a big part of your political evolution leftwards, you don't really want to abandon them, but you should be willing to. Not at the slightest moment where you doubt them, but overall, you should be. But overall, good win for the left. Let's see how it plays out. And the meltdown has been funny, but also a bit depressing. So that's it for the video. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. And if you made it this far, thank you for watching.